struggling to come to grips with reality. Confusion and chaos have become part of me. I seek answers to know where my liberation lies. Only in peace and calmness does that clarity arise. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations. No answers given, only outer temptations. Where can I find that truth inside of me? Realization of what I am is all I'm wanting to see. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. No more redirection, ending the contemplation. Forget fighting reflection. Outer world's a projection. Internal is the cause, external's an effect, put it on pause. I'm silencing the noise, centering, entering void. Truth is beautifully subtle, the voice without a voice. Heart and mind shall settle, making decisions now, escaping illusions of choice. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmission. The wisdom transmissions.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Wisdom Nexus live here on YouTube. Good to see you all here. So we do have some exciting new announcements today. I'm going to be going through them one by one, but today is a viewer topics episode. So we're going to have viewer topics from the audience. Again, we'll also be doing some personal readings at the same time. Already starting to see some questions coming up on the chat. They're looking good. Wonderful. So to get things rolling here today, and hope you guys can hear me okay. Hope my mic is coming through fine. If it's not, you guys can always let me know. I'm going to see if I can maybe move it a little bit more closer to me. A little bit more easier to hear me. There we go. All right, so today we're going to look into some announcements. So let me just go ahead and start off with that. And let me make sure I got my thing taken care of here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so first big announcement is that AetherX has reopened. Okay, so AetherX is back in business. Now, originally I wanted to create what's known as Anoint Array. That was another type of website that was going to replace AetherX and basically have kind of like a new platform to it. Unfortunately, I struggled with that particular platform for quite some time. It just wasn't working out. It was not giving me what AetherX was giving me. It was not able to bring about what I wanted it to bring about. And so Anoint Array was scrapped, and I decided to go ahead and bring AetherX in, but I'm bringing some of the features that was going to be in Anoint Array back into AetherX. So again, when you go back to AetherX.co, you'll find the website online. And we have some new services available on AetherX. So I'm just going to read out this paragraph because it's an important one. Concerned about high tariff charges in your country. Of course, we know that specifically between the United States and Canada. AetherX has you covered through our new imbuing services, where any household item you can be transformed into AetherX technology. Right? So any household item you own can be transformed into AetherX technology. And so this is our new services. We have two of them. The first one is the item imbuing service, which means you can turn any item in your home into an AetherX frequency technology. So imagine having something like that. Again, if you have a necklace, if you have a pendant, there's some people that are sending me portraits, pictures, rings, clothing, right? Anything of that particular nature, crystals as well too. And we basically imbue them the same way we would imbue an object, a technology here on AetherX. So that is available as an item imbuing service. And of course, we have the full body scan. So as I talked about in the past on Wisdom Transmissions, the full body scan used to be there. This is a different type of full body scan, because it's a full body scan. We're actually do a full body scan on your body, and then we create a geometrical array. You also have the option to submit an item, like a household item as well too, and we would put the exact same frequencies into that particular household item. So whether it's a necklace, a bracelet, an anklet, a ring, a crystal, whatever it may be, we can imbue that. That's not a problem. So the full body scan is now available on AetherX. So it's not available on Wisdom Transmissions anymore. It is an AetherX scan. So that is also available right now. Both of them are available. And of course, we have our products, just as we have had before. So they are back in business. Okay, so everything you see here is back. It's all 15% off. All the products are 15% off right now. So again, this is something really exciting that you can check out. We're going to have a third service here within the next few days, and that is going to be a furniture and room imbuing service, which means I'll be able to create a healing bed for you. Okay, so that's going to be our next service that's coming. We're probably going to debut that, I'd say maybe Wednesday next week. Okay, so that's going to lead to another announcement here in just a minute. But the third service that's coming through will be furniture and room imbuing service as well too, which means we can imbue chairs, we can imbue tables, we can imbue couches, we can imbue beds, we can even imbue your room as you take a panorama of your room as well too. So how that would work is that you would just take your camera, do a panorama of your entire room, send it to us after you purchase your furniture and room scan, which again is coming next week, and then we'll be able to imbue your entire room and everything in it, right? So that will stay permanent. Everything that we imbue is a permanent charge. It doesn't go anywhere, right? Because basically what we're doing is we're putting astral-based geometries directly into your room. So even if there isn't a geometry, for example, on a blank wall, we're putting an astral version of that geometry, Brianna and myself. We're putting that on your wall, and that is going to stay there for as long as your room exists, okay? So it really just needs to be a one-time deal, and you have those particular frequencies there. You can also come back if you want to have more updates or more upgrades or anything of that nature. But again, that is our third service that is going to be coming together here on AetherX. But right now, we have the item imbuing service, we have the full body scan, and of course, we have our products that are once again available on AetherX.co. So that is AetherX.co. All right, so you can check that out. We are back in business. And of course, with Wisdom Transmissions, this Sunday, I'm going to be debuting a brand new service. This will probably be the biggest service that I've ever offered in my entire, you could say, time of doing this work. Okay, so Sunday on Wisdom Transmissions, there's going to be a brand new service that's going to come together. It is a life-changing service. It is a service that many of you for many years have asked me to do for you. And I said, okay, well, I think I have now reached that particular point where this can be done. It may surprise a lot of people of what this particular service is, because it is a service that is going to be a game changer for all of you. Okay, it's a very big one. I'm not going to spill the beans here yet. You got to tune in on Sunday. Sunday I'll be making a video and putting that video here up on YouTube, and you can find out what that new service is, but it is by far the largest service that I have ever done in my life. And it's something that is going to be so rewarding and so powerful and so helpful to all of you. Like I said, it's something that's been dwindling for a while, and I was never too sure if I was going to be able to bring this out, but as I've been working on it, it is ready. It is ready to come about. So, keeping you guys in the dark here, but that's intentional. It's a bit of a precursor to Sunday, where I'll be making the video, and we'll be putting the new service up here, and it will be on wisdomtransmissions.com, available for purchase. It will be subscription based, okay, but you'll find out why. Okay, it all makes sense once I create the presentation video and put it up this Sunday. But anyways, with the private live sessions, the 3 questions by email, and the energy cord attunement, this is going to stick around for a while. I was thinking of maybe it was time to retire this, but nope, I'm still getting people who need this work, so I'm going to be continuing to do it for quite some time still. So it's not going anywhere. Private live sessions, 3 questions by email, energy cord attunements, those are available, and then the brand new service coming this Sunday to wisdomtransmissions.com. And of course, you can also go to patreon.com/Adronis, try your 7-day free trial for the Adronis weekly classroom. Right, so you can check that out too. And we also have the Indiegogo campaign here. So right now we're almost there. We're at 84% of the $10,000 goal. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for this. We're really going to be making RAYD8 something incredible. The first version was really a breakthrough, and the second version is going to be an even bigger breakthrough, as we're going to have a lot more capabilities with it as well too. So again, you can go into the video description. Just go into the video description of this live webcast today, and you'll see the Indiegogo link there, and you can contribute. Okay, so we're almost there. We're 84% of the way. We got 12 days left. We're going to do this. This is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to this. So again, we got a lot of perks here. Like I said, even going down to the perks with Apprentice and Master, which means you get a lifetime membership with the brand new RAYD8 Amrita. This is on the light subscription level, which is the $200 Apprentice. And then the $500 Master, you are getting the deluxe subscription. That means everything for a lifetime. Okay, so you can check that out. We still got more room here for plenty of donators. So feel free to check that out. Again, the link is in the video description. And finally, we have the Earth Intelligence Report live stream. This is going to be happening every single Wednesday from now on, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I was actually talking to a student of mine the other day. She gave me a card, and she mentions the Earth Intelligence Report. I said, that's it. That's the very thing I've wanted to bring back for a while now. And we're going to be doing that on Wednesdays. Okay, so Wednesday we're going to have the Earth Intelligence Report. We're also going to have Q&A as well too. So you can tune in for Q&A. We will not be doing personal readings though on Wednesdays. Okay, personal readings will stay with the Friday Wisdom Nexus, but we will have general questions for the Wednesday show. Earth Intelligence Report is coming back starting this Wednesday at 10 a.m. and every single Wednesday following. So we'll be coming back to a 2 weekly broadcasts taking place here on Wisdom Nexus. So this is going to be really exciting. I know how much so many of you have really enjoyed the Earth Intelligence Report. Even looking back at my previous episodes, that's the one that's actually got the most views. Was the Earth Intelligence Report and the Infinite Intelligence Reports. Okay, so Earth Intelligence Report is going to come back, and how it will work is I'm going to have like a background, and I'll be having the text that I'll be reading out live as well too, in the traditional Earth Intelligence Report fashion. And then of course we're going to be going into questions with anything else that you guys want to talk about on Wednesday. So the Earth Intelligence Report is coming back as a live stream. That's going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that starting this Wednesday. Okay. Woo. There's a lot of announcements this morning. So there you go, everybody. We got through it. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with today's broadcast. And again, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for your questions. So like I said, it is a viewer topics today. So everybody here, Feel free to post any topics that you want to look into, want me to explore today. Maybe it's through Adronis, maybe it's through the Tarot, maybe it's through the Akashic Records. Any of those are completely fine. But let's go ahead and get started with some of the donation-based questions first, and then we'll work our way down. All right, so we have the first donation-based question here from Eve. Eve says, "Hi Brad, is the fake alien invasion still going to happen? If so, what is the likely timeline?" Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that, because I have talked about this significantly in the past. There's times where I said, well, they could be, but I don't think they're going to, right? So that there were times in the past, even going back like a year or two, where they had an open window to do that, but they never took it. Either that or they just couldn't take it. Let me go ahead and tune into their records for this. So basically, I'm kind of opening up the Akashic folder and seeing exactly what comes up regarding this fake alien invasion, if that is still something that's going to be happening. No, simply because they don't have a lot of those toys anymore. A lot of those toys that they were going to make pertaining to the fake alien invasion have really been taken away from them, right? They don't really have access to those particular types of things anymore. Their technology right now is really just kind of, they have some things that are still available, right? They still have like directed energy weapons, and they still have weather manipulation technology and so forth. But a lot of the things that they had in installations, because that's basically what they were planning, is maybe launching TR-3Bs or saucer craft or anything of that nature, and then basically trying to create a hoax alien invasion. Even with what they would refer to as Project Bluebeam isn't even in their grasp anymore, right? They don't even have possession of that. And by them, I'm referring to mainly like the Khazarian Mafia. A lot of stuff has been taken away from them, okay? So is there a hoax alien invasion coming together? No. The only way they could ever pull something like that off if they were doing some cheesy, hokey CG effects on CNN or something like that. Maybe then that would be something. But that would be debunked very quick, right? So even if they tried to do something right now pertaining to a hoax alien invasion, it would be easily debunked very, very quickly, and it wouldn't get them anywhere. It would put them in even more hot water than what they're already in. So I would say that there is a 90% chance of it not happening. There's always that 10%, but that 10% I think would basically fall around the CGI, AI manipulation, being on a TV network or something like that, and then you're looking outside and there's nothing there, right? So that would be the best bet of them doing it if they had the chance, but I would say it's a 90% chance of them not doing it all, right? And even if they tried it, it would just be so cheesy and so hokey, and it would just burn out real quickly. So no, I'm not getting any real feeling about a kind of like the old-fashioned alien hoax invasion that they were doing, using TR-3Bs or flying saucer craft or anything of that particular nature. That is completely scrapped. The only 10% that remains if they did the cheesy CGI route, but that's not going to really go anywhere. So I don't think so. No. So thank you, Eve, for your question. Let's go down to EUM142, and it is a question for Adronis. Hi, Adronis. If we are meant to spend a lot more time in nature, how can we adapt to harsh winter cold so that it becomes more tolerable for us outside? Okay, one moment. I'll go ahead and bring Adronis in, and he can elaborate on this detail. Here we go. Soul Star Sirius Adronis. we are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. We thank you, EUM142, for your question pertaining to the idea of you connecting much more to nature. And if it is in our nature to connect a lot more with nature, then how in our nature can we connect with the very cold nature that is outside presently as we understand nature to be nature? Yes? All right. Just having a little bit of fun with you there. The whole idea is that no one's forcing you to go outside into the extreme cold. That's not what we're talking about with the idea of nature. You see, it's not about thinking that maybe you're in the frozen tundra and saying, well, Adronis, there's just snow and ice and it's minus 20 degrees Celsius outside and you want me to bond with nature. We're not talking about you going into extremes. We're not talking about you having to take a pickaxe and knock out some ice and then basically have to take a polar bear dip inside the freezing cold water. That's not what we're saying. We're not talking about you burying yourself in the snow, freezing to the point to where it is completely unbearable. What we're talking about with the nature itself is to simply connect with your presence, with your environment. Now, obviously, if you're within a cold space, if the possibility exists, have you considered going somewhere warmer so that you can enjoy a much more clement environment? If not, we're not saying you need to go and jump out in the snow. We're not saying that you need to just be in your shorts and slide down the ice. That's not the idea. That's not what we're saying. The ability to truly connect with nature really just starts with something simple. It starts with your breath. It starts with tuning into your senses to feel the environment around you, because the environment itself is also nature. So if it's freezing cold outside, there's nothing but 5 or 6 feet of snow. And if you want to stay indoors, then by all means stay indoors. You're not being forced to go out into the extreme conditions of the weather that's outside. Stay indoors. But just tune into yourself. Take a moment away from your work. Step away from the office, step away from the computer, step away from whatever it is that you're doing, and just tune in. Work with the breath. Feel the breath entering your lungs as you inhale. And hold for a few moments. And then just let it out as you exhale, feeling the air escaping the lungs. And just feel yourself connected to the breath. And now that you're connected to the breath, be aware of what your eyes presently see. Be completely still and just be aware of what your eyes presently see. Then be aware of what your ears presently hear. Be aware of what your nose presently smells. Be aware of what your hands and your feet and your body are presently touching. Be aware of the saliva in the mouth based upon what you're tasting. And just stay there for a moment. In complete and total silence, in complete and total awareness of your own senses. And just stay there. And then just close your eyes and feel yourself being aware of 360 degrees of your environment without moving your head, without moving a muscle. Be aware of the 360 degrees of your environment without moving a muscle. And then take another deep breath in, feel the breath coming in, and then feel the breath coming out. Congratulations. You just spent time in nature. You spent time inside your own nature. So, we're not telling you about going outside into extreme conditions where it's extremely uncomfortable, because you're not going to be able to concentrate. Your mind is going to be racing a mile a minute, saying to you exactly how uncomfortable it is. It's the same thing with extreme heat. You go outside and now you're just sweating and now you're perfusing incredibly strong. And now you don't want to go outside. Your perspiration is now getting too strong. You don't want to go outside. It's too hot or it's too cold. Then don't go outside. Stay inside. But just be aware of your own nature. Rather than worrying about perspiring so much or worry about having chattery teeth because it's so cold outside, just be here. This is nature. So, yes, you can go to a nice warm or clement environment where it does feel nice outside, where you're not being so argumentative with yourself. But if that's not within your capability, then go within your own inner nature. The inner nature and the outer nature are one and the same. Yes, we've talked about the idea of walking through forests, about doing what's commonly referred to as forest bathing, because that is very powerful. That is something that's extremely beneficial for you. But that's not what we're talking about. There is a part of that. But again, it's being aware of your own nature. Being aware of your breath. Being aware of your senses. Tuning into yourself. Being still. Being silent. That's the key to the nature that we talk about. Nature, as you would understand Mother Nature to be, helps to bring you there. Yes. But again, you have the ability to go right to the source, to go right there, to be still, to be silent, to be in surrender. And that's the nature that we speak of. That's the nature that you want to spend more time with. All right? We thank you for your question. Okay, thank you, EM142, for your question. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, we have another donation-based question here from Starboy. Starboy says, Jonas, in the past you said we humans will start to use nature more so as our internet. Can you teach us how we can start doing that now? It's an interesting synchronicity. We're getting a lot of nature questions today, so I like that synchronicity. Okay, yep, so Adronis can talk about this, about working with nature like your natural internet. Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Starboy, for your question about what we have talked about before as using nature as your own, as you would say, natural internet. Yes, there are those of you that are already doing this on the planet, which means you are able to work together with nature. For example, if one who has been developing themselves quite consistently, they're starting to become a lot more aware of their own inner self, their own inner presence, and they're out in a forest, and they want to connect with someone who may also be quite sensitive and can tune into that particular type of telepathy, then what that person will do is they will connect with the trees. They may sit simply beside a tree. They will anchor themselves directly into the earth. They will physically cord, physically root themselves directly into the soil. So they feel, again, as still and as strong as a powerful tree. And they will tune in to that person. And they will feel that person as well. And now they can actually start to have a conversation with that person. It is a mutual telepathy that actually takes place. So that when the time comes when they actually meet together in the physical, they do actually remember telepathic conversations that have taken place. This especially happens well for two people who are deeply in love with each other. It does not even have to involve the nature of a forest. That person may simply be laying down in their bed, and the other person may be laying down in their bed in their own home, and now they're starting to have a conversation. You could say that this is the language of soulmates, or this is the language of the twin flame, where they can actually sit down, even though they're in different places, and actually start to converse with each other and remember everything that they're talking about. There's that. Now you can also go into nature and tune into the trees and tune into the soil and tune into the plants and actually start to receive information pertaining to a living library about how the trees actually came to be, how they were grown. They will actually show you from their beginnings to when they were simply a seed, an acorn. And then they started to sprout themselves, and then they became the mighty tree that they are today. That's another example of using nature's internet. You can also connect directly with the Earth to connect with other planets. And you can now start conversing with other planets through the medium of the Earth. You can find out what's happening on Mars right now. You can find out what's happening inside your sun right now. You can find out what's happening inside the entire solar system right now. All of this is available to you. This is why we're talking about the nature internet. But the nature internet does not just relate to the idea of the Earth. You can expand even beyond that, and you can start looking at things on a galactic level, an interdimensional level, a universal level. So again, this is what the ancients knew. They would also work together with a great deal of technology. One of those particular technologies that they have worked with is actually something that has been found by your archaeology to be what's known as Taurus stones. And basically how Taurus stones work is that they are very much shaped like the torus geometry, but they actually come from the nature of erosion. They basically stay underwater for a considerable amount of time until the stone itself naturally erodes. As it naturally erodes, this is where, again, there is a functioning that takes place pertaining to a magnetic and dielectric cohesion. Whereas when you start to look at the stone itself and how it has been prepared, you can actually detect through some of your modern technology the nature of the magnetic side of the torus field, of the torus stone, and also the dielectric side, what you would refer to as the counterspatial harmonics relating to the torus stone in question. And they would also design rods, primarily cone-like rods. And through these particular rods, they would be able to channel the energy through the stone based on how it would flip. Think of the torus stone as an ancient battery. In regards to the area to which it is flipped, the side to which it has flipped, it will connect and actually function as a conductor for the rods. The rods would therefore be channeled and aimed at pertaining to a certain form of object. Now, what's happening here is that you have to understand this primary science. All right? When you have magnetism, magnetism is responsible for the creation and structuring of space, which means gravity becomes an effect pertaining to that structuring. When you flip it over to the dielectric side, it is the dielectric side that actually erases the structure of space to basically have something that would represent anti-space or counter-space in that way. But when the stone itself is flipped over to the dielectric side and it is channeled through the rods, what the rods are actually doing is they are dispelling gravity through a dielectric force. Gravity becomes dispelled through the nature of the dielectric because the dielectric represents the counterspatial harmonic of things. So that's exactly how these torus stones in the old times would work. It's a technology to which they connected with nature to work and build powerful structures. All they're doing is working with these rods that are, again, conductive together with the torus stone flipped over to the dielectric side and therefore depolarizing the stone. Depolarizing the stone to where there is no effect pertaining to gravity, because all gravity is an after effect of magnetism. It's a magnetic effect. It is not a dielectric effect. When you are bringing the dielectric into it, the dielectric completely dispels gravity, which means there's no more gravity that's actually holding on to that object. So you can easily pick it up, you can easily move it, and you can easily set it down. You can even embed it into another object. And then you flip the torus stone around, and then you apply the magnetic the magnetic charge back to it. And this is what repolarizes the rock, where it is now partially embedded into another rock. We're just telling you here exactly the secrets of how the pyramids were built. So the pyramids were built primarily in regards to what we've just described, working with torus stones, working with conducting rods, working with the dielectric, working with the magnetic. So the magnetic repolarizes gravity. The dielectric depolarizes gravity. So that you're able to lift that stone up. You're able to just move it with a finger, and it can now start to float. Again, it has no gravity that's actually touching it. It's lighter than air. Therefore, you could take a 10-ton stone, lift it up like it's nothing, push it with your finger, and it would start to move. It's like having these particular objects as if they were in, as you would say, outer space. You can just push them so easily. There's no weight restrictions. And you can set it up directly to how you want it, and then you repolarize it again, and now it's etched, now it's embedded directly into an object. That's the technology that they used to build the pyramids. This can also be done through certain types of harmonic frequencies, sound frequencies as well too, that hold, again, that dielectric discharge. That dielectric discharge is what enables the stone or the particular object in question to lose all of its, as you would say, gravitational effect, because gravity is only caused as an after effect pertaining to magnetism. Once you impose dielectricity onto an object, the gravity goes. And that, therefore, is how they've worked with the nature internet to understand these things, to understand how to work with these tools, to how to build these particular tools. Yes, they got some assistance from off-worlders, but they still advanced the science in their own way through nature's internet. So, to connect with it involves you being able to go within a lot more. To involve yourself with nature's internet, you need to connect and be more receptive to nature itself. To feel the subtle energy. If you're raising your hand just like this, we want you to tune into that to actually feel the blood flowing through your hand right now. Just being aware of the subtlety. If you're able to create an energy ball, we want you to move it in and move it out, expand and contract it, move it around, and actually feel that magnetic sensation. Tune into it a lot more. Tune into your breath a lot more, because in order for you to work with nature's internet involves you being very receptive and open to the subtle energies of life, because that's where everything happens. It's not the intense active energies, it's not the kinetic energies that we're talking about here, it's the subtle energies. That is the very, shall we say, lifeblood of nature's internet. Is to work with the subtle, is to understand the subtle, is to learn deeply from the subtle so that you can learn to command the subtle. And when you learn to command the subtle, everything is possible. And we mean that literally. Everything is possible. All right? We thank you for your question. All right. Very good question. So thank you very much, Starboy, for your question. This one here is from the year of the fire horse. Okay, so Hyadronus. Has all of the suppressive technology on the moon been fully switched off now? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Year of the Fire Horse, for your question. If we're looking into the moon and seeing if a lot of the technology, the suppressive technology that has been bombarding your planet has been turned off, a great majority of it has, yes, but not all of it. We would estimate approximately 75 to 80% of it has now been successfully deactivated. But there are still some particular technologies that must remain because it will take some time for adjustments to take place. These are not things, as you would say, that you can just let go of cold turkey. Even though in 2024 there are a great deal of these particular types of technologies when it comes to, again, polarity shifts, a lot of it is psychic technology. Psychic technology, intuitive technology, basically you could say scalar to a certain degree, that has been channeled to work together throughout your own Earth biofields. And therefore, of course, it affects much of the life upon your planet. But again, these are not something that you can just power down and turn off. We're not talking about dials here. We're not talking about switches or buttons that you just press and everything shuts down. It doesn't work that way. You see, again, it works an adjustment based upon the collective of the Earth. Right now, the collective of the Earth is firing up. That's because in the past, these particular instruments that were bringing about a great deal of that psychic activity were tuned up to the maximum. They couldn't go any higher. And so basically, you're still living out a lot of those residual effects. So even though a lot of the technology is disabling, it still needs to have some particular type of presence available. Because in the best way we could describe it, it's like you trying to get off very heavy medication. You just can't do it cold turkey. You have to give it time. You have to transition off of it very slowly, bits at a time. Well, that's the exact same thing pertaining to this technology. A lot of the technology that has been suppressive, that is not responsible for what we're talking about, but responsible for other matters, has indeed been shut down. But there is certain technology, again, around that small percentage range, that still needs to be online. And again, is basically starting to shift. So again, it's taking the cue of the collective to see, okay, well, the collective has reached this particular baseline, and so this adjustment can take place. It can really only start to level itself down based upon new baselines that the collective itself hits. And as it hits those particular baselines, then yes, you would see much more of a decreasing pertaining to that. So yes, other technologies have been cleared. What would be some of those other technologies, Adronis? Well, a lot of those other particular technologies are influences of a different type. They can even represent the idea of actually putting toxins within your own biosphere. Toxins in your own biosphere that was actually constraining a lot of the oxygen flow going throughout the entirety of your planet. There was a lot of locks, a lot of, shall we say, clamps energetically that were taking place upon your planet that was actually interfering with the flow of oxygen on your planet. This is why, again, that the poles from north to south did not have that strong of an oxygen supply, because a lot of it can actually be maneuvered. And the moon was a very big catalyst in regards to that happening. Now that's been turned off, and oxygen will start to move naturally as it once did, but it is absolutely possible to control the flow of oxygen, particularly with the technology here on the moon. It's not difficult at all. So again, that needed to be deactivated. There are other factors, but other factors in that sense may have to wait. But again, in regards to what we're talking about here pertaining to the nature of psychic technology, influencing technology, it is going down, but again, it goes down as humanity hits certain baselines. It cannot go down if humanity is still spiking. Humanity has to reach that particular ebb and flow. And as that ebb hits, the technology is able to meet. As that ebb goes lower, the technology is able to meet. As that ebb goes even lower, that technology is able to meet together in parallel. That's really how it's working. So it will continue to go down, but it's going to continue for a few more years because humanity has a lot of stuff to get off its chest, has a lot of weight on its shoulders. And again, very much to why many of these controllers on the moon were utilizing these particular types of technology is they were completely unaware that they too were being a part of a great awakening on your planet and didn't even realize it. With all of this suppression, with all of this resistance, with all of this control, this is actually what brings about a great revolution. So they too contributed to the nature of a great awakening, not just through humans, but beyond humanity as well. All right? We thank you for your question. Okay. I did not know that about the oxygen, so it's that's quite a shock. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so I think that's all for the donation-based questions. All right, we're going to go ahead. So again, guys, if you're tuning in right now, if you're watching this, if you want to ask a question, just go ahead. It doesn't have to be donation based. Any questions that you want to tune into, we got over 100 people run right now. So like I said, feel free to fill up the chat. Always love to hear more perspective from you guys. Okay, so this one here, we're going to go back into some of the standard questions right now. This one here is from Mihail. Mihail says, hello, Brad. Will Christianity go through a new reformation anytime soon? Okay, let's take a look at that through the records. And I may follow up with that with the tarot as well, too. So I'll see what I get from the records, and then we'll get into the tarot. So again, Christianity, if it's going to be going through a reformation, if we're going to reform Christianity, that would be great. But let's take a look here. The best way I could put it is that that's a work in progress, right? There's events that are going to take place that's going to basically change the face of religion as we know it on the planet. It's going to lead to catalytic change, but not right away, okay? So it's not something where a person can just snap their fingers and say, hey guys, Christianity is all bunk, let it go. I mean, you have to look at the concentration of Christianity here upon the entire planet. And really, rather than trying to debunk it, they're trying to reshape it, to give it a new meaning that makes people a little bit more pliable to what's actually happening, to what's going on. So Christianity is not really looking to be debunked, it's looking to be reshaped, okay? And that could be the same with a lot of the world's religions, right? Whether it's Christianity, whether it's Catholicism, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Muslim, right? Those are looking to be reshaped. You can't just terminate that. You can't just flick off a switch and say, okay, Christianity is gone, Catholicism is gone, Judaism is gone, etc. It doesn't work that way, right? It's about the idea of taking that particular program and reshaping it, turning it into something else that makes it much more pliable, that makes it a little bit more well-shaped, so that information that will come through those particular states of religion can actually come through much more of a state of reason. And that's what they're planning to do, okay? But that's not going to be something that's going to happen right away. That's still something that's several years in the making right now. I know, guys, I know that you want to tune into somebody and say, oh yeah, Christianity is going down, right? Religions are going down. They're all going to be finished here by next week. Then that person would be lying to you, right? And one of the things I do on this channel, my friends, is I tell the truth, okay? I'm not saying things just so you guys can feel good with hopium. So the whole idea of Christianity, of religion, what is actually happening is, as I'm tuning into the Akashic Records, is that it's being remolded. Think of it as, again, a block of clay. And there's clay that's now being reshaped, and it's attempting to make it into a sphere. Why a sphere? Because a sphere has no walls. A sphere has no edges. A sphere is completely smooth, which means we're smoothing everything out pertaining to these religious programs, right? So again, these religious programs cannot just be destroyed. They can't just have TNT strapped to them and then blow up and thinking it's going to be gone. Can't do that, right? The whole idea of the influencing, of the brainwashing, of the intense control that these particular religious institutions enforce upon people is too powerful just to turn off. You can't turn it off. You have to remold it. You have to reshape it. And that's what they're doing. They're attempting to mold and to reshape it. But like I said, this is something that will take years. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. It just can't be done. If you guys think that you can do it overnight, go ahead and try. Go ahead and try and do it. You can't, right? And that's exactly where they're coming from. You have to remold it. You have to reshape it. And that's its path ahead. Okay? Thank you for your question. All right, let's move on. Okay, so Jan here asked the question of if Adronis can explain the true origin of the fourth commandment to keep the Sabbath a holy day. Thank you very much. Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Jan, for your question pertaining to the fourth commandment representing the Sabbath to be kept as a holy day. Well, do you even know what a holy day is? Because what you're talking about here is astrology. You're not talking about just some morality role here. When you're looking at the Sabbath day, Sabbath ties in with Saturn. Saturn and the Sabbath. All right? because basically you would understand that the Sabbath would take place on Saturday. So therefore, you have Saturn. The whole idea in that sense in the ancient times is that that was a day of worship pertaining to the ancient sun, representing that of Saturn. So Saturn was once your ancient sun. It is not the sun that you have now. A long time ago, Saturn was your supplier, your nurturer of life upon this world. So Saturn has a history. But really, when we're looking into the nature of Saturn right now, Saturn was primarily sacrificed. The whole idea of the nature of the Sabbath is often in reverence much more to the idea of, shall we say, demonic aspects. When you're looking at the idea of the Sabbath again is to honor Saturn, which means it really has much more of the demonic aspects pertaining to the celebration of the sacrifice of Saturn, of Saturnia. And you can look at it in the idea of, yes, Satan in that particular way, which means it was actually much more of a day to celebrate the devil rather than God. So the whole nature in regards to that law of it being a holy day, whenever you see something that is spelt as Holy, that is a distortion. That would represent the opposite side. That represents the service to self path when you're looking at something that is spelt as Holy. Because that is actually what's representing duality. That's what's representing a whole rather than Wholy. Wholy would be the nature of wholeness. But whenever you're looking at anything that is spelt together with the degree of a holy to it, there is a distortion there. So the nature of honoring the Sabbath day really is just to basically worship Saturn in regards to its sacrifice, worshiping Saturn in regards to its destruction. This is why the idea of the Sabbath, if you look at the true nature of the Sabbath, was originally intended for man. Unfortunately, what this represents is that it requires man's worship for the taking over and control of the material. That's what it represents in those dark times, up to now. So in the ancient times, the nature of the Sabbath was never meant to be honored in the way that it is right now. The nature of the Sabbath truly represents the idea of the original end of the week, that you therefore honor the labors that you have done. It originally represented the idea of the celebration of humanity and the celebration of labor and the celebration of good deeds. But it has been transitioned over to honor the sacrifice of Saturn, basically through a type of satanic worship. That's what it represents pertaining to the Sabbath as the religions carry it forward today. Because when you're looking at the nature of the Saturn day, the day of Saturday altogether, it represents the nature of Saturn, and in Vedic astrology, Saturn is the planet that is furthest from the sun. It's the darkness. So therefore, the nature of what is written in the Commandment, which is again not very accurate, but nonetheless this is what has been shared, would represent the holy day, again the whole, the divide, the chasm, honoring the nature of duality, of separation consciousness, because that's really what's being worshipped here. It is being worshipped through the nature of the material world, holding much more succession over the light of spirit or the light of God. So the Sabbath, or Saturn, is basically being depicted as the most important day for rest, when it's not. It should actually be Sunday. That is honoring the sun rather than honoring the devil. Do you see what we're saying? The nature of Saturn in regards to how it's depicted through the Sabbath is the nature of a dark ritual. That's what it represents. It is a chasm. It is a divide. It is a hole within humanity where you are honoring the flip side of life pertaining to that the material needs to be the successor, rather than the light of spirit, the light of the sun, which is Sunday. That's the day you should be honoring, not the Sabbath as it has been pointed out here. So this is a little bit of food for thought for you to look into a little bit deeper. We're not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong, or this is this or this is that, but we're giving you a perspective so that you can see this for yourself. The entire nature of the Sabbath is all engineered in regards to honoring the material realm, rather than the light of spirit, to which represents Sunday. It's all astrological, our friends. It's all astrology. It's all numerology. That's what the Bible is. So you have to learn to speak that language, and then you will understand it completely. All right? We thank you. There you go, my friends. Yes, it's the Sabbath day. Again, like I said, there's no work being done. It's just the idea where everything's basically at a standstill. That is representing a perversion, right? That is not what it is. Even Jesus talks about it in that sense, and saying that how many of you on the day of the Sabbath, if you saw a sheep fall into a pit, you would not work to get it out. The Sabbath was meant for man, not man for the Sabbath. Exactly what Jesus said entails the whole idea behind that principle, that these organized religions, criminal organizations basically, honored the day of a Saturnian sacrifice, demonic worship, to basically be the day of rest. It's perverted. It's like looking at the inverted pentagram right there and say, here's the material realm. Honor Saturday. No, you should be honoring Sunday. Sunday is the day of the light. So there you go. Right? And like I said, guys, look into this yourself. These are things that I've discovered. These are things that Adronis has shared. But again, you have to look into your own understandings here to really grasp it. I'm just giving you some hints. Okay? Thank you very much for your question. Okay. Okay, Rose says, are lithium supplements good for brain health? No, they are not. Okay? Do not be looking with lithium or anything of that nature. Rather, instead, with brain health, look to herbs. Okay? Especially with how lithium is nowadays, a lot of it has been chemicalized. And you do not want those chemicals going into the brain, because you are only going to cause more problems with your brain. Okay? To work together in helping to clean out the brain, look into moringa. Look into sarsaparilla. Look into sea moss. Look into the herbs that have a high prana, right? So we're looking at mullein. We're looking at nettle. We're looking at nopal, cactus. We're looking at wormwood. Wormwood's a little bit bitter, but it's still something that works pretty well. We're looking at all of the cilantro is very good, okay? Wild blueberry. Chaga is also very good. Baja gold sea salt. Okay, these are all the powerful concoctions that nature has provided. My friends, please don't get hooked up with all of this stuff of what all these scientists are trying to do, of what they cook up in a lab and say, oh, we got some particular type of lithium aspect of supplement here that you can take in and it's going to clean out your brain. No. How is it that scientists know what's better for you than intelligence design? They don't, right? Even the vitamins that they claim that are supposed to be so good for you, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, where'd they come from? Right? Where is it in a plant that there's actually vitamin C? Show me the actual chemical composition that makes up the vitamin C strain. They can't do it because vitamin C is a concoction created in a laboratory. Vitamin A, B, C, D, E, K, all of it. Those are laboratory concoctions. What they will work with is they will work with a primary ingredient and they will strip away all the supporting ingredients needed for that particular source through that plant, quite commonly, that needs that to actually deliver the repair it needs. This, again, is just the result of psychopaths. Psychopaths taking plants, taking nutrition, taking things here that have been left through intelligent design and trying to mold it in their own images based upon vitamins, right? All vitamins are basically toxic, okay? The only natural vitamin that we produce, and it's not a vitamin at all, is D, okay? But D is a pro-hormone. It's a pro-hormone aspect within ourselves. It's not a vitamin, okay? So vitamin D, there's no such thing. It's a pro-hormone. And if you're not getting it from the sun, the best way to get it is through mushrooms. Okay? Not shiitake, just except for shiitake because shiitake is acidic. If you want to get D hormone into your body a lot more, you look into mushrooms. Okay? Mushrooms contains the greatest concentration of D hormone. Okay? That's why I'm not calling it vitamin D, because it's not a vitamin. There's no such thing as vitamins. Vitamins are man's concoctions. Those are what's created in laboratories. Right? Do you really want chemicals created in laboratories based upon these dim-witted scientists who think that they're actually doing people a favor when they're actually just feeding an agenda? Or do you want to go out into nature, look into the precious herbs that are there, that have been left here for us, and preparing those and putting that into your body? My friends, isn't it said several times in the Bible that herbs would be the healing of all nations? So why the hell are you sticking with chemicals? Where in the Bible does it say anything about chemicals are going to be the healing for all nations? Find that. Where is it? Because all you're doing with vitamins is you're taking chemicals. You're not taking something that's natural. Okay? Where they say, oh, these plants have vitamin C and vitamin... No, they don't. No, they don't. Because there's no such thing as a vitamin C. There's no such thing. These are all just drug names. Oh, we got retinol here, and we got this here and that here. We got all of these names for these drugs. Yeah, vitamins are drugs. That's basically it. You're taking multivitamins, you're taking multi-drugs. You're taking multi-chemicals. Those aren't natural. They're stripped away of all the necessary benefits that they need that originally came from plants, that came from herbs, that came from all the goodness that nature is providing. And it's stripped away and it's placed in a laboratory. Right? So this is the whole idea, guys. You got to get out of this whole vitamin garbage. Right? I was following that as well too, and I saw through my ignorance, being very ignorant following these things. And so of course these are things that are cooked up in a laboratory. Yes. Vitamins are chemicals, and vitamins are not part of nature. There is no vitamin C that exists in nature. It's not possible. There's a lot more of a wholeness relating to a plant of what it has, pertaining to its contents, and all they're doing is just stripping out bits of that content and focusing on a key ingredient, saying, here's vitamin C. It's ridiculous. And it kills everything else a part of that. So vitamin C, right? It's the same thing if you guys get a cold and you're being told, oh, just go ahead and take some vitamin C. You're still sick. You're still sick for several days, even taking all of that vitamin C, because it does nothing, because it's a dead thing. But when you actually start putting minerals into your body, when you start having the alkaline that's coming into your body, that cold is gone within about a day, because you're giving the body everything that it needs, and that's minerals, and that's prana, right? That's the most important thing. So rather than eating blood and starch and chemicals, get out of that stuff and come into the alkaline way. And that's the natural way of life. So that's my perspective on that. Okay. This one here is from Colette. Colette says, hi, Brad. Can you look at Connecticut and other Northeast states as liberals are working on having our New England states separate from Trump government? Will they fall? Okay. Oh, yeah, another thing I forgot to do was to look back on the update. I can't remember what the question was now, but I forgot to look at that on the tarot. But I'm going to look at the tarot first this time, and we'll take a look at Connecticut and other Northeast states. You see, this is the time of separation, because even in Canada, Alberta is basically ready to set the charge to separate. I think Saskatchewan will be joining that as well too, Manitoba, possibly even British Columbia, and even possibly Quebec will be separating from Canada here very soon. So it looks like there's a lot of things of independency, but let's go ahead and take a look here at Connecticut and other Northeast states. As you said, the liberals are working on having our New England states separate from Trump government. Okay, let's take a look. It's an agenda that's going to fall, right? It's just an agenda that they're trying to push because they basically want to have their own territory. They want to enforce things on people. And if you get that liberal democratic aspect of that coming together, it would be hell for a lot of those particular territories or states themselves. But no, from what I'm getting, this is much more of talk. This is much more of them trying to create a ruse of things, trying to push for things that aren't going to happen. So, like I said, this is the whole reason behind it. Okay, so you basically got a tower that's here in the present moment. Near future, they'll be staying together, right? The United States, I don't feel, is going to be separating at all. Okay, so it looks like they're going to be pretty tight together. Let's look at the overall results. Yeah, so everything's staying exactly where it is. Okay, it's not going to fall. It's not leading to Connecticut or New England or anything of that nature trying to separate from the United States. It won't happen. It won't be done. Okay, Canada, different story. Because that's actually much more of a conservative movement relating to Canada. But this is, again, more liberal, democratic. So leftist, it won't fly, right? They're just trying to have territories for themselves so that they can conquer certain areas, right? But it's not going to work. They're losing more power now than, I don't put any analogy there, but they're just basically losing a lot of power. Their battery's running dry. So, no, I don't see those particular states separating at all. Okay? Thanks for your question. Okay. This one here is from Paraneet. Paraneet says, how likely will we have a World War III simulation? A World War III simulation. Okay. Well, I could say that you're not having a World War III. Okay. But basically, like I said, it's kind of like a war that's not representing a world war, right? This entire war has been more of a mind war. It's a war on the mind altogether. So I'm not too sure what you mean by a simulation, right? But in regards to the nature of there actually being a World War III, no. I've talked about this many times, and I've always said there will never be a third world war. We are way past that timeline for anything of that nature to happen. Brad, how can you say that with such a surety? Because I've shifted timelines, and I've helped other people to shift timelines from their life so that they can start living better. I know exactly how these timelines function, and that there is a certain momentum throughout the subconscious that would bring you much more to the plateau of something like that being seen imminently as manifesting. And we're not on that plane. We're not on that platform. Okay? So the war that's happening, is there a war that's happening? Yes, of course there is. There is a war. Is it a World War III? No. Right? It's something that doesn't really have an official name to it. But it is a war of the mind. It's a war of psychology. It's a war of the soul, you could say, in that way. Because what we're seeing is we're seeing the complete and total collapse of gangsters, organized criminals, Satanists, parasites upon this planet that are losing absolutely everything. As I've said, and I explained this just a previous week ago, talking about the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, right? Right now, we are in that middle of that age, in the middle of the age of Aquarius. And during that particular transition, you're going to see more and more of these centralized platforms fall away, right? Some people have said, oh, Brad, we've been in the age of Aquarius for a couple of centuries. No, we're not. If that happened, you would not have centralized systems. Aquarius does not support centralized systems. It does not support centralized banks. It does not support centralized conquest, right? It does not support wars. If you were in the age of Aquarius already going back a few centuries, we would not have any of this right now. Okay, Aquarius does not work that way. Pisces works that way. Pisces completely complements a centralization plan, a centralization scheme. But no, there is nothing like that that's happening pertaining to Age of Aquarius happening centuries ago. Because if that was the case, we'd be in a very, very different world right now. But again, with the idea of a WW3, no. But with the idea of getting through an old war that's been happening for quite some time, yes, right? I guess the best thing you could refer to it is a type of Armageddon. But an Armageddon really isn't a war. It's the idea of the tranquilizing of distorted, dualistic powers to therefore see the light. And that would represent the Armageddon. The Armageddon has been perverted as well, too. It's not something that represents mass destruction or anything of that nature. It's the idea of people coming into the light. They've seen through their shadows, and they're choosing the light, and that represents an Armageddon, a type of reconciliation. Armageddon is a type of reconciliation. It has nothing to do with war. It's been perverted. Like so many other things on this planet, all of these ancient words, these ancient terms, have been completely and totally perverted. Think, oh my God, it's an Armageddon. You guys don't even know what Armageddon is. It has nothing to do with war. It's reconciliation. What? So again, this is why I say you got to go deeper. You have to look deep into these things. And like I said, so yes, like I said, there is an old war that's happening. It is coming into a state of culmination. Another few years and things are going to dramatically change upon this planet. Like, Brad, can we see the complete and total nature of all of these elitists and globalists completely expunged as we move into the next decade? About well over 90% of them, yes. There'll still be some little bits of riffraff here and there as we get into the 2030s, but the majority of control is going to be handed back to the people. It's going to start moving into decentralization. What do I mean when I say these things are being given to the people? They're being returned to the people, because that's decentralization. You're responsible for your own finances. You're responsible for your own home. You're responsible for your own lifestyle. All of that will be on you. That's decentralization. That's the power being brought back to the people. Decentralization is the answer to this. And that's what's taking place right now. We're seeing so many countries looking to separate, looking into the idea of that. Because like I said, I think Canada is going to be one of the biggest charges for that. Where we're seeing Alberta, and we're seeing British Columbia, and we're seeing Saskatchewan, we're seeing Manitoba. We may be seeing Quebec as well too, wanting to separate from the Confederation of Canada, creating their own nation. This is exactly what I said would happen, is that with Pierre Poilievre not being elected because he was the last person that could basically try to keep Canada together, with him not being in the picture and then just keeping everything liberal, then what's going to happen is complete and total segregation of the West to create their own country. Now, maybe they join the United States later on. Maybe they stay with their own country and have that working relationship with the U.S., where basically it does fall together with almost like one country, but still having their own policies, their own confederation, and so forth. But this is exactly what I said would happen, is that when we start going further into 2025, there will be a lot more discussions and actions being applied for a lot of these provinces to separate from Canada, because that's where it's going to go now. If Pierre Poilievre could not get in, then it would lead to complete and total separation of Canada. And here we are. We're seeing it right now. So again, there may be other countries across the world that are looking to move into sovereign independence, because this is also what I've said in the past, is the more that you're seeing these particular, whether they're states or they're provinces or whether they're countries that want to move into sovereign independence, that's the right direction. Brad, why is that the right direction? Because that is decentralization. And that is the sign that Aquarius is here through the transition. You didn't have that in the 15th century, or the 16th, or the 17th, or the 18th, or the 19th, or the 20th. It comes into the early part of the 21st century, which is where we are right now, which is indicating the nature of the age of Aquarius, transitioning right now with Pisces up into 2050. So it's not leading to a World War III, but it is leading to the end of a very ancient war with a bunch of psychotic psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call them, that have basically been devil worshippers, that have basically connected with very, very low, despicable, parasitical beings from different realms of consciousness that they have allied with, because they're trying to break this whole prophecy about humanity moving forward and acquiring the earth for themselves. That's exactly why they have been doing that. They've known this for thousands and thousands of years, that the time would come where humanity is going to take its power, and then the greedy and the corrupt will have absolutely no power left. They've known this for prophecy for many thousands of years, through many different civilizations, because all the same civilizations say the same thing. People are going to take their power back. Oh no, we can't have that. Everything representing the corrupt is going to lose its control. It will fall. Oh no, we can't have that. Right? They've looked into this. Even if you guys don't think they're being thorough, believe me, they're thorough. They have looked into every ancient civilization. They have collected all of their writings, they have collected all of their relics, they have collected everything from all of the ancient civilizations of the world. They know what's going on, right? Not the riffraff, not the grunts, but the higher ups. They know what's going on. And this is why they're so desperate to try to change everything, to impose all these rules, and to impose all of this fighting, and to impose all of these wars, and to impose separation consciousness upon everybody. My God, do it in any particular way that we can. If we can't do it in the physical realm, then you get your butts working and you do it in the astral. And in the astral, you put up all of these boundaries. In the astral, you put up these grids. In the astral, you put up these veils. If we have to go to the causal, then you go to the causal and you put up all of these layers, and you put up all of these illusions, and you put up all these veils. My friends, that's what they've done. They've done it. Their control does not just stay on the material plane. It is staying in the astral plane. It is staying in the causal plane. They are efficient little, they are very, very efficient in trying to maintain their control. They have done an exceptional job of screwing everybody over. They have done an exceptional job of layering false veils and false dimensions over people, to where people start to go into out-of-body experiences, and they're basically getting these bliss hits, and now these bliss hits become drugs because they're getting blissed out of their mind and they're not willing to go any higher. It's very easy to create realms like that. I even know how to do that, right? It's not hard. So again, you have these people going off into meditation states, and they're leaving their body and they're going into these blissful realms, but they're all illusions. They're all illusions. They're just getting completely baked up with their illusions pertaining to what they see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. They're not actually listening with their heart. They see what's stimulating their external senses. And that's what's getting them into these bliss hits. They're seeing these paradises, and they're saying all these things. But those are controlled grids. Those grids are controlled, and they need to be taken down. Because what the person is doing is they're looking through their senses. They're not looking through their heart. And you have to look through your heart. When you look through your heart, those veils can't touch you. But if you're going into these states and you're getting blissed out, and you're just getting all of these particular forms of psychedelic experiences that are still taking you into these false dimensions, you're not getting anywhere. It's not about being blissed out. It's about being integrated. It's about surrendering. It's about being silent. It's about being still. My friends, I can create those realms. Brad, how can you? They're not hard. All you're basically doing is you're going into the astral plane. You're putting frequencies. You're basically creating thought form patterns that can overlay that. You get a frequency of the collective consciousness. You wrap it around based upon this grid that represents those frequencies of illusionary states of bliss, and you wrap it around the planet like a net. It's easy. And that's exactly what they've done. So they have their cohorts that come in, and they know how to do this, and they can wrap those bliss fake realms around the planet, and it's just around the Earth grid. You don't go far beyond the Earth. You're still tethered to the Earth. You're giving the impression of thinking that you're moving into these other realms of deep states of bliss when you haven't gone anywhere. They're false astral veils, and they're easy to put together. And they're also easy to break, right? So who knows? Maybe if there's a time where I need to go in and I need to start breaking some of these realms down, then, well, there you go. That's my work cut out for me. But nonetheless, this is it. This is how they do these things. They try to put everything in place here in the material realm, in the physical realm, and then they go to the astral, and then they go to the causal, and then they try to put all these things. It's like they're touching the skin of the subtle realms without actually going into their core. But they touch the skin. They touch the skin of the astral. They touch the skin of the causal. Even some of the subplanes beneath the astral, right? If we're even going into the low psychic planes and all that stuff, they're touching the skin. They're just rubbing the skin of these particular veils, because veils can only exist upon the skin of these different dimensions. They can't exist in their core, right? So it's like a net that's being covered against a door. And then you learn to cut down the net, and then you can enter through the door. So it's like I said, my friends, this is all just part of advanced science and advanced metaphysics that a lot of us don't know about. But I've known about these fake veils for quite some time, and they're very easy to make. and they're also very easy to break. So we'll see how things go there. Okay, guys, how we are on time here? We got a few minutes left. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm just making sure I got everybody's question here before I move on. Okay, just Year of the Fire Horse just said I heard this, but I also heard that 2025 it shall be shut off. Majority of it is, right? But like I said, the ones that remain need to be done through kind of like a drip, through a transition, right? You have to kind of transition it off it. They can turn off as much as they can, but like I said, the damage has already been done, and they have to meet humanity to where it is, to where there's baselines, as Adronis talked about, okay? So this is from Yogi Tarzan, 95. If there's still ignorant humans on Earth emotionally, can we trust that the veil is still on? But you'll also notice things are getting softer and humans are more sensible. Can we trust that the veil is still on? Well, I mean, there's many veils that are on altogether. When you're basically going through a state of awakening, when you awaken yourself, and I'm speaking from personal experience, it really is the layer of the onion analogy, okay? We're peeling off layers. There's not just one big layer here. You have a multitude of different layers, okay? Ignorance comes in many different shapes and sizes. It's like with my ignorance about the nature of chemicals over the nature of herbs, right? There's still an ignorance layer pertaining to that I've cleared away. But we all have our own veils of things, right? We may think that this is the path to walk, or this is the person to trust, and there's a veil of ignorance pertaining to that. So if we're looking at the idea of there being ignorant humans, my friend, I'd say the majority of us are ignorant, okay? We all have our own veils that we have to break through. But like I said, if we're looking at the idea of a type of celestial veil that's being peeled off, then that's exactly what is happening. A collective veil that's happening, yes. A lot of the stuff that's happening even in regards to the solar activity, even when we look at 3i Atlas, because none of you guys have actually asked me about that. That's making such big headlines, but none of you have even asked me, Brad, what about 3i Atlas? What's the deal with 3i Atlas? Do you guys know what 3i Atlas is? It is a comet, but again, it is extraterrestrial engineered. And whenever you have a comet that's going through the star system between the Earth and between Mars, and you have it going through that passage, what happens is all of that energy that's coming from the comet, again, that is an incredible amount of energy. Those waves, those ripples, are basically hitting both planets, and then the planets are reverberating those particular effects across each other, which means we basically have the energy of Mars rebounding back upon these ripples from the comet that is intersecting together with the ripples of Earth. This is like a Mars planetary alignment that's taking place with the passage of the comet. And I'm surprised none of you have asked me the question about 3i Atlas. That's a big topic, right? Come on, guys, get on it, will you? But that's what's happening, is the comet itself is coming through. And as there's celestial bodies, what happens is the intensity of the comet, its magnitude, basically starts to slow down, because you have very powerful, very large celestial bodies here. And it's like passing through a wind tunnel, right? There's a lot of resistance is happening there. So the comet basically slows down as it starts passing through two planets, in between two planets. And then when there's none of those barriers, it starts to excel quite heavily. But the whole nature of the propulsion system of the comet itself is a natural occurrence, but it's a type of cold fusion that's taking place. Comets are basically cold fusion generators. Okay, so no life forms are on the comet. There's people who are talking about that. Oh, it's an alien ship. So guys, there's no such thing as an alien ship that's a comet. Have you guys been on a comet? There's nowhere to put anybody. The entire environment is volatile. You would not survive. You would be dead within a matter of seconds. There is no such thing as a comet spacecraft. But spacecrafts will accommodate comets. They will work together with comets. They will help to change their trajectory, right? But again, everybody thinks that the comet is a spacecraft, and it's not, right? Engineered by off-worlders, yes. Their trajectory, the trajectory that the comet is making, is being engineered by off-worlders, yes. But on the comet itself, it is a volatile environment. You cannot survive. Does not matter even if you're saying, oh, well, what are these beings are silica-based? They'll still shatter. What if they're carbon-based? They'll suffocate. They'll basically combust. That is an intense environment upon a comet, on its surface and in its core. And basically, its geometry works together in a figure 8. It's a hyperboloid pattern. The entire nature of the spewing of its jet pertaining to its tail is a hyperboloid vibration. It's a hyperboloid geometry. How many of you know that? This has nothing to do with an artificial spaceship. No comet has had anything to do with an artificial spaceship, because you cannot make an artificial spaceship out of a comet. The comet is an engineered. It's like an engineered seed planter. It's basically going through, it's like a miniature sun in the state of cold fusion that's propelling throughout the solar system based upon its root and leaving these ripples, these seeds, as it spreads out. All of those particular forms of minerals, all of those ores, everything that makes the comet what it is it's being a seed planter for planets. And it goes in between those planets and it leaves, you could say, these vibrational rippling seeds. And they impact upon the surface of the planet and it rebounds, it ricochets, it ripples. So between Earth and Mars, this is like the equivalent of a planetary alignment relating to Mars and the Earth. So you're going to have a lot of Martian energy on the planet during the time of the passage of 3i Atlas. So there you go, my friends. That's something a lot more. You guys got to keep up with the big current events. This is something important. I'm just surprised nobody's asked me about that yet. That's a big thing. It's a big matter. Okay, it's not something little. When you're looking at Martian energy, you're looking at fire, you're looking at energy, you're looking at rebellion, you're looking at revolution. We're already starting to see one of my other predictions start to come together. Cities are now starting to have massive amounts of people coming out on their city streets. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions. And as I said, when we get into 2026, that's going to increase. One of the things that I said would happen is that going out into various cities, you are going to see countless people just filling all of the streets because they're moving into revolution. And this is going to happen a lot more because you could say that 2026 would represent a year of revolution. And that's going to happen a lot more. So there's two of my predictions already that have come together, right? Looking into the idea of the separation of Canada pertaining to sovereign independence, looking into the nature of, heck, millions of people coming out into the streets of cities, starting to build revolution, starting to come together and saying, we've had enough of everything. It's not just one topic or two topics, it's everything. And they've had enough, and now there's going to be more. You're going to look at major cities all across the planet over the next little while here, and they're all going to be full of people walking down the street where it seems like it has no end. That's revolution. That's 2026. 2025 being the end of culmination, leading into the year of revolution, 2026. So there you have it. Just look into these things, guys, but what I'm saying here is already coming to pass. That's two accurate predictions that have been hit. Let's see. Okay. How are we on time here? 11:29. Okay, so we'll take one more question. I just want to see if I can find someone who has not asked a question yet. And if not, then I'll go back to that person. Okay, I think we'll end with... I think we'll get two more questions here. Okay, let me see if I can get two more questions in here. This one here is from Zen. Zen says, Brad, can you look into if I will relocate so that I can freely detox and use Dr. Sebi's product? Okay, so that's a personal question, Zen. Okay, so personal questions need to be done by donation. Okay, I'm happy to answer it for you, but it's personal. Okay, so let's go to Eridus. Hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Hello, Brad. Please ask Adronis if the Earth is really the size we are told, or if it is a much larger object than many more continents. Okay. Adronis has talked about the nature of the size of the Earth, and he says it's actually a little bit smaller than we may actually take it for granted as, right? Not really larger, but actually a little bit smaller. Okay. So he has talked about that, right? If it's the size that we are told, it's a little bit smaller, not by much, maybe like a couple of percent. But it's actually a smaller world than the bigger one that we're thinking. Some people think it's a little bit bigger. Adronis would say it's a teeny bit smaller, not by much, 1 to 2% change in regards to the size of its mass. Okay, but overall, a tiny bit smaller than what we thought. Okay. 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 Again, I'm trying to find people who have not asked me a question yet, but let me see here. Fire Purified, welcome. Welcome to the broadcast. Okay. Yeah, there's one here from Raging Punk. I haven't got to his yet, or his or her, sorry. Raging Punk says, hi, where does the love energy from the heart originally come from, and how does it get generated? Well, if you're looking at the nature of love energy, it's not something that you can see. It's like if I'm telling you that prana resides within oxygen, okay? You cannot see that prana. You cannot really sense that prana through the physical senses. The only way you're aware of that prana is when you're tuning into the air and you can feel its light, okay? The same thing when we're looking at love energy as comprised from the heart, right? The heart would represent that material organ as a gateway, an empathic center for yourself. But the love energy within the heart is not something that you could ever see, smell, taste, touch, or hear. Okay, so just like prana resides within oxygen, love energy resides within the center of yourself, right? The core of yourself, we're often told, is the heart, but the heart itself is not actually the apparatus, so to speak, that's holding the love energy. It's a station, it's a terminal, but that's not where the love energy comes from, right? It's from your own center. And that center is not something, again, that can be perceived through the physical senses. Again, a lot of yogis, a lot of ancient masters, a lot of great teachers will tell you, go into your center, go into your core, go into your heart, okay? Going into the heart, like I said, would represent an aperture. It represents an apparatus, but that's not where the love energy is, okay? The love energy resides within your center, and the heart is the station of the center, but it's not the center itself, right? It's you going through the passageway. It's you going through the terminal. But beyond the terminal is the center, and that center is what radiates everything pertaining to love, everything that's representing compassion, everything that represents, you could say, the pure goodness of yourself, the pure essence of your very being that represents innocence, right? I would say that if you're going to look at the definition of love, you should actually look into innocence. Innocence is actually a lot better name and a lot better word than working with love, because love's just been too contaminated, right? So when you go into the centeredness of yourself, that is innocence, okay? And innocence would represent that essence of yourself. This is why it's much more of an appropriate term. So really, rather than love, you would say there's innocence. There's innocence of that. Because when you look at the purity of innocence, is anyone who is truly innocent, do they ever wish to do harm to anybody? No. Anyone who's purely innocent, do they see anyone in separation to themselves? No. They're all interconnected with innocence. Innocence is just including everybody. Everybody's here. And when you look at innocence, do you see a selfishness? No, not at all. They're all about others. There you go. There's love. There's innocence. Okay, so innocence would be much more of the appropriate term over love. Love is too misunderstood. It's fine, but it's just too misunderstood. I love this person, but he did this to me. Oh, I really love this person, but they did that. Or this happened, or that stuff. Oh, I love this, but you don't love it. You've been hurt, right? So this is why love becomes misunderstood. But when we say have innocence towards that situation, nobody's ever talked that way before. Having innocence towards that situation sounds very different. Yes, because that's the essence of your purity, right? It's the pure essence of being. And that's what's in your center, rather than saying love energy. I mean, in a way, it's partially true. But like I said, you're looking at something that's not really an energetic. Really, we're looking at the nature of innocence. That's much more dielectric, okay? It's not really a magnetism. The magnetism is the expression of yourself. Whatever you're expressing, you could express great joy. You could express hatred. You could express fear. You could express sadness, jealousy, etc. That's what you're expressing. That's magnetism, okay? Magnetism is something that you can define. Magnetism is something that you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. But when you look at innocence, you can't define that. That's the dielectric, right? That's the null point. That's the very essence of yourself. that when it is acted upon, it takes over the magnetism. And just like Adronis was talking about with the Taurus stones, is you basically disable the gravity. You dispel the gravity altogether. The gravity of the emotions no longer become apparent. And now you are the essence of innocence. And that is what's in your center. And that's not something that can be detected by the senses. That's something that can only be felt. It needs to be felt from within yourself to the center of your nature, the center of yourself, right? So there's no generation. The only thing that's generated is magnetism, okay? You cannot really generate the dielectric because it's already there, okay? But what you're doing is you're expressing yourself, right? The expression is the emotions. And like I said, you have the whole flurry. You have the different polarities of emotions altogether, positive, negative, etc. And that's the expression. That's what's being generated. But you cannot generate your center because your center already is. And beyond the center is presence. Beyond the center is the self. The self is not generated. The self is not created. The self is. Always has been, always will be. The self is the eternal background that makes everything pertaining to life possible. The self is responsible for the mind being what it is. The mind cannot even exist without the self. But the self does not have awareness. It is not aware of itself in that way. It is awareness, but it's not aware of its own awareness. And that's what makes it so brilliant, is that it doesn't know how beautiful it is. It doesn't know how graceful it is. It doesn't know how great it is because it's not aware of itself. The self is not aware of itself, right? Even if we're looking at Advaita Vedanta circles, where a lot of people will say, oh, just be aware of being aware. That's stupid. What? Brad, you're saying it's stupid. If I did not have a mirror here, can the eyes see themselves? No, the eyes can't see themselves. And even if I had a mirror, that mirror is not part of the eyes. Is the mirror a part of my body? Do I have a natural mirror on my body? No. The eyes cannot see themselves. Therefore, it's not about the observer witnessing the observer. It's not about the aware of being aware, because awareness is not aware of awareness. So this, unfortunately, is a lot of the Neo-Advaita, New Agey kind of garbage that they put on people, thinking that the observer needs to observe the observer and the witness needs to witness the witness, and blah, blah, blah. And that's stupidness. How it comes down is like looking at the analogy of the eyes. The eyes see everything, but the eyes cannot see themselves. That is the entire philosophy, the entire nature, I would say, behind being the witness, being witness consciousness, right? Even consciousness itself is impermanent, okay? Consciousness is not the same as awareness. When you're looking at the nature of consciousness, it's a field. But as I said, that field can be absorbed back into the self, something a very scarce few people can actually do, but you can actually absorb your consciousness back into the self, to where you simply are the self, and there's nothing that can be said about that. There's no expression, there's no painting of a picture for what that's like, other than the idea that you have been completely absorbed back into the self. And one of the people who basically did that was Ramana Maharshi, right? Absorbing himself back into the self, where there is no field of consciousness anymore. You simply are the self. And that's it. So yes, a consciousness field can be absorbed. The nature of the consciousness field itself would be the nature of the soul, right? Or the nature of God. That's the consciousness field. But the field itself can be absorbed back into the self, and the self surpasses God. And the self surpasses everything that represents creator consciousness or creative consciousness, right? God is the essence of the creative, not the creator. Creator is a vessel of God, not God, him or herself, or itself, right? God represents the creative force. A vessel who therefore is at one with God would utilize the creative forces of God to create. But then when we go beyond the creator and the creative to where there's just the self, there is no creator, there is no creation, there is no creative. It just simply is the self. So again, my friends, food for thought, right? Okay, everybody, we are out of time for today. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of this broadcast today. I really appreciate it. I will be back again this Wednesday for the new Earth Intelligence Report live stream. Okay. Again, feel free to look in the video description. You'll find the link there to the Indiegogo campaign. You'll also find a link there to AetherX. So again, if you guys were really wanted to get that full body scan, this is full body scan souped up to the next degree, because not only are you getting a full body scan, you're getting imbuing to help out with clearing up all of that debris in the organs. Okay, so Brienne and I are both working on that. I've trained Brienne for a couple of years, so she knows how to do this as well too. So she'll be doing it together with me, so we'll have a lot more time to tackle a lot of the full body scans as they come. Look into the item imbuing service if any of you are concerned about the tariff rates, of course, between Canada and the US specifically. Then you can look into getting the imbuing service. We can basically take any particular household item you have here, and we can turn it into living AetherX technology permanently. So there you go, that's there. And then again, there's a new session, a new service that's coming next week on AetherX, and that again is the furniture and room imbuing service, okay? Creating your own healing bed for you, creating your own healing couch, your own healing table, all of that. That will be a third service that will be available in AetherX next week, starting next Wednesday. And again, this Sunday, I have the big announcement that will be coming in with the brand new life-changing service that I'm going to be offering on wisdomtransmissions.com. That will be debuted this Sunday. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Check out Indiegogo as well, too. We're almost there with RAYD8 Amrita, and I can't wait to get started with that as well. Have another technology for you guys. And there'll be a free version of RAYD8 Amrita, too. So if you don't want to pay for subscription, you'll have the free version on RAYD8 Amrita, too. But still need your help. We're almost there. This is definitely going to be at least a $20,000 project. I'm taking care of the first 10,000, and the next 10,000 is up to you guys, and we're almost there. So if you can lend a helping hand, greatly appreciated. Take care, guys. See you next week. Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Bye for now.